welcome to the Improv. Somebody as always, I'm your host Spencer, and with me today I have a very special guest. And I always say I have a special guest, so to make every guest actually feel special, I've decided to take that old improv game, take that person's first name, take the first letter of their first name, put an adjective in front of it, and make them feel special. So today I have with me Positively Peter!
Positively me. I have been Positive Peter. I've been Pizza Peter. I have been palatial Peter. I don't know. That was a popular word. I think I had just learned that word when I started that warm-up exercise.
At least you're not pedantic Peter.
Pedantic. Ooh, yeah. You know, honestly, I think somebody had gifted me that once. Pedantic Peter. I think in a class like warm up, someone was like, "Oh, you're pedantic Peter," and I'm like, "All right, asshole Ashley," yeah, or whatever.
I love that one. I was going to say also, like, the adjective pizza is very impressive. I've never used pizza as an adjective, but I quite enjoy it.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you switch it up. I had a teacher switch it up and said, "Oh, a food that would describe you." I'm like,
I never
okay.
switch it up. My adjective is always the same. The action I use is always the same. I never change it.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Super Spencer.
And then
someone one time did it. They did super, and their name was, I don't remember if it was Spencer or whatever. They did super, and they did in motion, and I went, I'm still doing it, and I still did super Spencer.
Good.
So much for the improv portion of it, but, whatever. I want everyone to know who I am.
Yeah.
And then I just forget everything else I did, including my own action and my own name. But let's dive into what this podcast / TV show / web series / whatever we're calling this is. Talk show, sure, why not? Whatever. Yeah. Non sequitur BuzzFeed article. I mean, whatever we want to call this. And let's talk about you and your improv experience. What is your background in improv?
Right. Well, I started improv in Orlando, Florida, at SAC Comedy Lab, famous for Paul Appel of Saturday Night Live fame and Wayne Brady. I mostly did I went through their curriculum and then did short form games. That's, they are short form theater. And then after about 2.5 years of that, I moved to Los Angeles, where in 2011 and then 2012 or 2011 I started taking classes at UCB on Franklin, and then the original LA theater. And then I was a intern at UCB starting in 2012. I was a Sunday intern, then I turned into being an intern for the ASCAT show long after my internship had expired. And so I was there on Sundays to see, all those fun shows. And then after taking improv, just as far as classes go, at UCB from 2011 to about 2015, I went to the Groundlings, and I went to that curriculum and made it all the way up to Advanced Lab in 2016-17. And that concluded my improv schooling. But in that time, I was able to perform improv in Austin, Texas, back in Florida, all across Los Angeles, a couple festivals that were fun. And yeah, it really started for me back in Orlando.
That's awesome. As a Florida native,
you know about SAC? No.
Well, I know about SAC, but I grew up in the Panhandle, right. So it's a whole different atmosphere for the fact that there's really no improv, unless you go very indie with improv. And I thought I knew what improv was until I moved to LA, and then I went, nope. And then I figured it out once I got here. But you said UCB work study. I was a Wednesday nighter, so I had Facebook every Wednesday, and then Cage Match, which was very late.
Oh yeah, man. You know what's interesting?
Cage Match night.
Oh wow, yeah. You know what's interesting? Cage Match, would that start at midnight?
It's supposed to start at like 11:30, but
yeah, exactly.
By the time they get everyone in the house and they get through their intro, it was like 12:15.
You bring up a really interesting point about what you think improv is and how you're introduced to it, because as you're saying that, I'm remembering that the game in town in Orlando was SAC Comedy Lab, and they were very, for no reason in particularly, they were very standoffish at letting other people perform or admitting new cast members. And they wouldn't even have shows 7 nights a week, and sometimes no more than one show a night. I don't know why that is. I don't run a theater, but anyhow, because of that, there was an indie scene, and we would do short form games as well. And I always thought that improv was okay, we're going out without a script essentially, and then being thrown into scenarios, whether it's long form or short or whatever. I wasn't really so familiar with Whose Line, other than having watched it at other friends' houses. I can't tell you what channel it was on the TV, but I definitely didn't get it. So I watched it when I went to friends' houses when I was younger, and we would do. My first improv team's name was Hot McCartney, and we had T-shirts that said Hot McCartney, and we would perform short form shows at a British pub on iDrive. That's like the heart of the tourism section in Orlando.
You're talking about right where like where Universal, Disney, the Titanic exhibit, like all of that stuff just like lives, right? Like was it Old Town and Wonderworks, all that jazz?
So yeah, essentially it wasn't near the parks, but it was close enough to the parks to where it was close enough to the parks to where if you had been at the park all day and you wanted to escape from your family, you could do that at one of the tourism bars. And so we would go there on iDrive. And I mean, all in all, I sort of thought improv was a competition because, if you're doing short form games, it's introduced as that. But the truth is, as long as it's entertaining, who cares who wins? But the people that would come would like cheer certain people on. And then on nights that I won, or whatever, didn't win, people were like, "Oh, you should have won. Your hula hoop thing was so funny," or blah, blah, blah. I remember that specifically. And then I from that, I never really thought about it too hard. And like, I didn't really get too heavy into the scene until I was in LA. But yeah, if I had invested myself in like, oh my gosh, I need to be winning everything, I would have been a pretty insufferable improviser, and I wouldn't have had any clue as to what the art form was really about.
That's awesome. I got distracted for a second because the painting I think that you have in the back, the yellow rectangle, the red circle, the blue, for some reason it makes me think of an episode of, I think it was Doug, where they had a painting that looked very much like that in a gallery, and no one could figure out which way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this way or this way. And then like I think Pork Chop figured it out, if my memory serves correctly. And I'm going to find that episode and send it to you. But that's what it reminded me of. And I was just like, is that the same painting from the episode of Doug? But I think that episode of Doug, I think it's like a made up painting. But it had like a white, and it had like I think it had like black, red, yellow, and green and blue, but all different like shapes and stuff. And I think there was a yellow frame. I just remember it, and I was like, maybe it's not even Doug, but I think it was.
I did a simple Google search, couldn't find it, but that's interesting. That is very interesting. Quick plug.
I could be making this all up, but I think that's what I remember.
I remember loving Pork Chop as a character. Great character. And I do remember him, coming up with a solution to many things. So
yeah.
So I don't doubt
it. What was it? I just watched The Christmas Story, Doug's Christmas Story.
Oh.
And the episode or whatever Doug's, I mean, it's like from the 90s, but not just, I watched it over the holidays, but it was where like Pork Chop, like BB fell into the ice. There was like thin ice that she was skating on, and she fell into the water, and Pork Chop went to grab her and bring her out, and BB Bluff blamed him for like biting her, saying that he was attacking her. And so like they went to court, and then it like turned out that Pork Chop was literally just saving BB, and so then they threw a big party for BB or for Pork Chop, and it was like, it was really cute, but it was also like, you gotta understand that dog is not gonna just go in the water and attack you.
Pork Chop beat the case. Yeah, and what are they saying? They're saying, oh, any opportunity, don't show your vulnerability to a dog, or he'll expose it or exploit it. Just to what? Bite her? Like she's not food, you know? I don't get
it's
that.
like it was just funny.
Poor-
But you said
poor
you had a
pork
quick
chop.
plug. Did you want to plug something about
Oh
that
yeah,
painting?
so the people that did this mural on my wall here that you see, they are two improvisers who are very funny. Their names are Nick and Jensen, and you can find them on Instagram and they're called Very Gay Paint. That is their paint company, and they do murals all across Los Angeles and I think the country. And they're very cool. And this one happened very early in the pandemic. I think July 2020 when they had just formed. So yeah, I dig it. Thanks for pointing it out. I always love to plug them. They did a great job.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of plugs and pitches, now's a good time if you want to just throw out those plugs or pitches since we're on that.
Yeah, I know this is usually homework, and people will probably want to fast forward through this, so I'll make it quick. Do a podcast. It's called Florida Versus, where I bring on a guest and I compare my upbringing in Florida to their upbringing in maybe another state or another country. It's fun. You can find it on all streaming podcast platforms. And then Instagram, Peter_Murphy. That is where you can follow me, see what I'm up to. And then on March 1st, if you're around in the Los Angeles area, I am starting the march toward my 1 hour stand-up comedy special by doing a 30-minute show, or I'm going to do a 30-minute set at Flappers. And I'm very excited for that. One comedian on that bill with me is Casey Spivey, who's very, very funny. And yeah, I'm going to be looking to film my hour special at some point this year in 2022. And I've got the material for it. Just going to put it up on its legs and, see what happens. But yeah, March 1st, Flappers in Burbank. Podcast is Florida Versus. And then Instagram is Peter_Murphy, in case you missed any of that.
Nice. Great. That leads me into something we didn't actually go over, and it's usually the second question I ask, but we got so off topic with Doug and the painting, and now I'm questioning if that actually was an episode of Doug. I vividly remember this thing happening, but I don't remember if it was in Doug or if it was in a different cartoon.
Well, the pork chop thing was definitely Doug. The painting thing was definitely Doug. The BB falling through the ice.
Oh yeah. That I know is Doug. But this painting of them adjusting the painting, I'm like, was it pork chop and was it in Doug?
That sounds like something that pork chop would solve. Especially beret era pork chop. I could see pork chop putting on one of Doug's sister's berets.
Well, that's what I feel like. It was like an episode of Judy, at an art gallery or something.
Yes.
And for me, in my mind, it checks out as this would be a through line in an episode of Doug, with Judy doing some weird art gallery showing, someone knocking over the painting and putting it up, and then pork chop being like, no, that's not how it fixes. I'm going to find this episode. It's going to be at the bottom of the description with your plugs, because I'm going to find it, because I feel like it was in I vividly remember someone had a brochure and they're looking at it and they're like, it's not like it is in the brochure. I have to find this.
Even if you don't, I think I would be looking forward to your Doug spec script with all of those details involved in all of it.
I will do that as soon as I reminisce on Disney's Doug Live, which I never had the honor of seeing. No,
Doug Live on Ice.
That was it. One that was at MGM Disney Studios before it shifted over. It was in that. It was
Universal Studios, right?
Yeah. Oh no, Disney.
Okay.
At
Disney.
Hollywood Studios, MGM, Disney MGM. This was back when the Backlot tour was there and Hunchback was there, and the Sounds Dangerous starring Drew Carey way back in the day. But it was right next door to the Sounds Dangerous. It's where they had the American Idol experience. Where Doug Live was.
That's so
Doug
funny.
Live lasted about as long as Goosebumps Horrorland Fright Show, which I had the pleasure of seeing once.
You know what's interesting? And I don't want to.
We're so off topic, and I love it.
I know. I don't want to distract us too much, but
no, it's good. I love
going along. You mentioned the American Idol experience. Going along with the idea of my introduction to improv and what I thought it was earlier, and taking it too seriously. What a scam the American Idol experience was at Disney, at the theme parks or whatever, because the judges, the people that were singing, they thought they were going to get plucked out of obscurity and brought to Hollywood. Like, it's not that they thought they were auditioning in front of Paula Abdul, Simon Cowell, Randy Jackson, but they thought, oh my gosh, this is going to lead me somewhere. Where the judges were just 3 local actors that were paid to give canned responses, and the people were up there singing their hearts out, like they thought that this was going to give them something. And I think the lesson is, in Florida, people take so many things far more seriously than they need to, and
it is Florida,
and they forcibly like to change things, and that's why nobody really likes to be around. It's like, all right, just kind of understand the real stakes here. And oh my god, when I that was revealed to me that the judges at the American Idol experience were just actors and everyone was taking this so seriously, I thought, oh my god, these poor people,
Yeah, especially if like they're not very good, or they're really good and the judges don't actually know if they're good or not.
I mean, but it's a recipe for chaos, where there are these actors portraying judges who could care less, who have scripts in front of them to read off of.
Oh yeah.
And then people who believe that the stakes are incredibly higher than they actually are, or that there are any stakes at all beyond just trying to huddle in a bunch of people into an auditorium like place, to kind of thin out the crowds for roller coaster lines, right?
I love it. That being said, as much as we love the American Idol experience, what do you love about improv? What keeps you coming back to improv and doing improv, or even how you have used improv to incorporate into stand-up?
Yeah. I've had a lot of success with stand-up lately, hosting shows, getting on more bills, getting booked on more shows, which is great. What I learned through improv, and what I like about it is, if you allow yourself to not be the leader and allow yourself to respond, react, interact with your teammates or your classmates, then it will help you become a better listener, which is great for any profession. And it'll also allow you to see, and this is what it did for me, it allows you to become more aware of yourself. Not saying you need to look at game footage, game tape, like, hey, we did that show and I filmed it, I better watch it, our 15-minute set.
No, thank you.
But yeah, just in exactly, some nights, no. Other nights it's like, yeah, great. But I think you learn how you're coming off and what your instincts are, because for me, I was very unaware of myself coming into Los Angeles, and I was just I was at the intersection of overly confident and eager, and in Los Angeles, nobody really wants to be your friend if you're either of those things. Which is to say, also, if you care about something a lot, people are either protective that you might take what they believe is theirs, or they'll shoot you down because they don't want you to care about something more than they care about their thing.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of caring about things, I'm gonna ask you a completely different question, just because I like to have no segues on this show, other than this one. This is the only segue I use. Which actually makes me think of improvised stand-up. As someone who's a stand-up comedian, you probably heard of improvised stand-up. I did it once. I absolutely hated it, but I also loved it at the same time, because the one I did was like a 3-minute set, and every minute they would change the topic behind me, so I had to look around and switch into a different topic. And so I didn't even know, sometimes I didn't even have material, because I was the one that I got was Valentine's Day Injustice, and I was It's like the Injustice League, and then I started talking about how kids in school would bring like Valentine cards for all their friends, but sometimes they would not bring them for everyone in the class, and
Hmm.
they get in trouble. And I was like, that's a Valentine's Day injustice. But my
Oh, true.
question is, have you done any improvised stand-up? And if so, how is your, or even with stand-up, how is your improv experience translated to improvising for stand-up?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is in two parts. Essentially, there are nights where I will go up and just go off of the last thing that the last comedian has said and improvise
Mm.
that way to create new material. I'm very conscious of the laughs that the or how the room reacts. So maybe if I touch on something that things that we've all done, we've all gone to school, we've all gone to the grocery store, it's been done, but airplane food, etc. If I stumble into something like
What's up
that,
with
that's good.
that?
Yeah, but I do love yeah, exactly. But I do love any opportunity to create new. I mean, a show that's saying like, all right, this is improvised stand up. That is a exercise tool that is very helpful and will lead to something. How has improv influenced my stand up? It's influenced my stand up the same way that it's influenced my life. And it kind of has allowed me to submit to allowing myself to be more present. So, if, there's not, some people will do stand up and they'll just read off of a script that they've memorized. But the best people, I believe, will do that, but then also allow themselves to be present and allow themselves to be in that room and go off of the energy of the room, which is why, much like improv, stand up is not as transferable or like retellable or quotable as maybe say other art forms, because you just kind of had to be there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thanks, Peter, so much for joining me here on the Improv Summit. I do have kind of going off of this like idea of stand up in an improv. I do have one more question for you. Also, that was such an abrupt transition. I just went, yeah, I do. Anyway, so I want to acknowledge how awkward that just jumped right into it
Oh,
because
I
I
get it.
wasn't
We're moving
actively
here, man.
listening.
We're moving.
Yeah,
We're
no, it's
moving.
all
We're
good.
shaking. I'm with you.
I'm still listening, but we're talking about the heightened listening. But
Yeah.
when it comes to, I would even throw stand up into this mix as well with this question. I always get this is the last question I have for you. It's the question that I always put here on the Improv Summit. Is I used to have a lot of people who are like, Spencer, you take a lot of improv. Where should I take improv? And as someone who is a stand up comedian, I would also throw in the idea of stand up as well. If someone asked you, where should I take improv, or where can I do comedy? What would be one piece of advice or one tip you'd give to someone to help guide them on their improv or comedy journey?
Um, well, let's get one thing straight. I started focusing more on stand up because I realized that in improv and sketch, I uh, I wanted to do more entertainment wise, and with stand up, it's just me that holds the responsibility. And then in improv and sketch teams, say, we share that responsibility, and it's hard to get on a very committed team. That's why the teams that are most committed tend to, rise quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's hard to sell. So I got more into it through that. Where would I take stand-up classes? I would say you just go to open mics, and there's no stand-up class that anybody should take. But as far as improv goes, what's interesting is, we talk about, being interns at UCB and whatnot. And at these different schools that either exist or don't exist anymore through the pandemic, there's a lot of unnecessary brand loyalty. And I get that because you just, like I'm use myself as an example. I wanted to be a part of something. I want to be part of like a movement. I want to be part of like a club. I want to be part of a team, a fraternity, whatever you want to call it. And I think the best use for improv is for it to suit you. It's like college, like you use school, don't let school use you. And in a lot of these places, you can find yourself repeating certain classes because you just want to get through it and you want to find the reward rather than learning the lesson. So what I would say is do it for yourself, pick anywhere, but remember that it's all going into you. Now my path was UCB and then Groundlings, and then oddly enough, I became part of a house team at IO West without ever taking a class there. But
good for you. I took the whole program and I still didn't get on a team. Actually, I didn't audition, but also I graduated 6 months before they closed, so there wasn't much of a window for me to get on a team.
So I mean, I think the best place to start is not a place, it's like a time, and the best time to start is now. So start whenever, but just know that, you know, if you're in a place like Los Angeles or a place like New York or even Chicago, where, you know, for all intents and purposes, improv was born or, you know, was elevated to the art form it is now. Mm-hmm. When you go to those places, people will judge you the first time they see you. So be aware of that. Because everyone's, you know, wants the same thing. And I was able to do better at writing premises or you know, or being present on stage at UCB, and that's where I learned some of those lessons. Then when I went to Groundlings, I understood that the main takeaway, and this will save you probably $2,000, is people go to a comedy show to be entertained. They want to see something they don't typically see. Maybe it's, you know, for some shows, somebody in a crazy wig. Maybe it's somebody that they can relate to, or a mirrored version of themselves, but they want to be entertained. They want to have fun, and they want to see something that they don't typically see. So that's where the energy component comes in. And if you can combine those, not to say that you have to be a genius and you have to have this great energy, but if you're present, you have a good energy, and it's entertaining, then yeah, people want to see that. And I think you'll be more well-rounded and find your own voice and perspective.
I think that's great. Also, I just want to plug the fact that you said don't take a stand-up class because you never need it. Just do open mics. I actually took 2 levels of stand-up at Second City, and here's what I learned. I actually quite enjoyed it because we got to put up sets and get feedback. But one of the biggest notes I said was you have to go to open mics. You can't just do it in this class. In order to get better at stand-up, you have to do it in front of people.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you said that, I was like, that's hilarious, because the whole class was them going, go do open mics. Our homework was to go to an open mic. Our homework was to go see people do open mics. And so it was like us. We were able to structure the jokes. After taking a couple classes, I was like, I don't need to have more classes because I know how to structure my jokes. But the main thing was like, just go do it.
And how
I think it was funny that you brought that up.
And how improv serves that art form is you do it, you do your 5-minute set in front of, you know, 3 people in a coffee shop, or like, you know, 10 comedians ready to go on. If you get them to laugh, then you know you have something bulletproof. But also if you're performing and you resign yourself to being present and you take your ego out, then you'll find more punchlines and more tags and more jokes than, you know, just sitting at home staring at the wall, or, you know, getting in your notebook or typing, you know, in a vacuum. And yeah, man, I mean, what's interesting, I was talking last night with a couple comedians, and in 2011, there were 10 or 15 open mics in the whole city of Los Angeles. This is what I just from collecting data from, you know, comics who had been out here since then. 10 to 15. Now Los Angeles hosts the most independent shows, the most open mics. Like if you want, you can get on stage at least 20 times a week if you want. If you really want. Some of those you might have to pay $5 for 5 minutes, but places like Boomtown Brewery downtown, it's a free open mic. Third Wheel Hollywood, every single night they do an open mic for free. and other places where you can like meet people and do that. That's readily available, which is interesting. While the improv community in Los Angeles is sputtering to start back up, even the clubhouse hasn't fully opened. Stand-up has been back for some time now, and that's just interesting to see. When the crowds are ready to come out and see comedy, then that'll be more fun. But there's just more opportunity to do that, and with more sets, you get to say, all right, well, I'll just improvise off this one, or do something or try something different.
That's awesome. I love that. Again, thanks for joining me, Peter. I did say that was the last question I had for you, but as always on this show, I am a big fat liar, just like Paul Giamatti. And I have another question for you. And that question is, we've been talking a lot about improv. You want to do some improv?
No. Yeah.
Well, you think that you're the only one that's ever made that joke on this show. I had someone say no and walk off camera, but they came back. The number one rule of improv is no but. So just deny. That's the number one rule. If you ever never learn anything else in improv, you've learned to deny every offer that you're given.
Can I tell you one quick story that I always think of when somebody asks me if I want to do improv? There was a story, God damn, I forget who it was, but Mike Myers, he had already been on SNL. You may know the answer to this if you've heard it before. I assure you have. But he was already on SNL, goes back to Second City, Toronto, I guess when it was still around. And he just like dropped in and they were like, hey, you want to do improv? And he was with one of the kids in the hall. I forget his name, but he was like, oh my gosh, they're going to let, Mike goes to one of the kids and he goes, they want us to do improv. Like, let's do it. They asked us if we want to join them on stage and, do improv. And he goes, I forget the guy's name. He goes, And he's like, what are you talking about? Like Mike Myers is like so excited to be up on stage. And the response is, I think most improv could use a rewrite. And it was one of the kids. Damn, I wish I remembered who it was. I think it was the guy that was on Superstore. But it's not that that's relevant or not, but it's just a funny thing to say. And, both of those people are very successful and they have two differing opinions on opportunities to perform, which is always funny to me.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love that. Let's do some improv. All right, we're going to do some improv. Peter, what I need from you is an answer to this question. Do you want a location, a relationship, or a word?
Ooh, a word.
All right, I'm going to give you two. You tell me which one you want to go with. The suggestions are cold and UPS. Cold or UPS? Or quad. We'll throw in three. Cold, UPS, or quad?
Cold, UPS, quad. Let's go cold.
Cold. All right, who would you like to initiate this scene?
I will initiate the scene.
Great. All right, thank you. Here we go. Cold.
Mark, hey, you take your breaks in the refrigerator back here too?
Yeah, it's pretty hot outside, so I figured the only place to really like tone down the sweat is just inside the ice box, but like not the freezer part, just the less cool, not the cold, like the less cool part. It's like more of like the tundra, not the Antarctic in here.
Yeah. No, man, I could tell you're a cool guy. You're cool. Stay cool. Do you want to smoke some of this weed with me? I mean, I've got a 15-minute break, so.
Chris, right here in the refrigerator, you want to just do it right here? I mean, that's pretty potent stuff, man.
I know, this is the strongest weed I've ever had in my entire life. The thing about it is you can't smell it in the refrigerator. If you're in a refrigerator, the smell of weed doesn't stay on you.
I don't know if I understand the physics behind that, but I'm willing to trust you because you're my best friend coworker. I mean, best friend as far as like all the coworkers here. You're not actually my best friend, but you get the idea. You're my coworker who just happens to be my favorite coworker. So I trust you the most out of everyone that I don't trust.
Dude, you know what? I'm gonna even say you're my best friend, dude. You're my best friend. You help me, just out of everybody.
Wow, I appreciate the compliment. I wish I could say the same thing about you, but I already have a best friend.
And okay, man. All right.
But I'm happy to be your best friend. That's totally fine.
Yeah. Hey, I get it. Hey, will you reach behind the the chicken nuggets. That's where I stash my weed. It's right behind you.
Oh, you put it with the raw chicken.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just that's the best place to hide it. Nobody really looks there. You don't want to touch the raw chicken, right? Nobody does.
No, I mean, you get salmonella. I'm just wondering if the chicken like juice, the rawness, like leaked into the stuff. You sure it's safe?
Weirdly enough, dude, this is why you need me as a best friend. I know everything about everything. Number one, if you smoke weed in a refrigerator, the smell doesn't stay on your clothes. Number two, if you put the raw chicken drippings, they're not harmful to you. In fact, the antibodies and the bacteria will make your immune system stronger. And number three, I can name any plant.
Great. I trust that. Can you name 5 plants? Just name any 5.
I'll name the 5 that are in my house. Roger, Eddie, Steven, Michael, Jesse.
Yeah, that checks out. I mean, I was, thinking more of like species, but I guess those are names of plants.
Well,
I guess I should clarify.
I'll be honest, you got to meet him. Jesse's a total Jesse, Hey, yeah. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, you go. No, I think you got something more important to say.
Oh, no, it's just watch where you're kicking, watch where your feet are. That's where I keep my lighter fluid, just the fluid.
You know what? I'm just not even going to question that one. I feel like that's the safest choice we have. You seem like a pretty cool guy. Here in this refrigerator with you, you seem pretty chill.
Yeah.
Just like everything else in here is pretty chill as well. So
now you're getting it, dude.
Yeah. You want me to just get it? I guess we could just light up right in here with the fluid and the stuff and just bing bang boom, I guess.
Bang bang boom. Grab some of that lighter fluid with your hands. Grab it in your hands like you're down there like a rock quarry by a spring and just collecting water. Just do that.
I guess it's safe if you say it's safe. I trust you completely.
Yeah,
as much as I trust my friends I don't trust.
You're my best friend, dude. Hey, do you want to watch How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days together later?
I love that movie.
Me too. Here's the match.
Scene. Thanks so much for coming to the Improv Summit. As always, I'm your host, Spencer. That's Peter. See you next time. Bye.